Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. This is where I take 10 questions from the subscribers. The subscribers are a subset of our community that contribute extra money every month to allow us to do a higher degree of community content. So this show around the verse, we've started up the wonderful wide world of Star Citizen that focuses on community generated content. The Jump Point magazine we do every month, which is 50 to 70 pages of in-depth behind the scenes information on, say, how we build the ships, how we design systems. It also has some lore and some fiction. So this past month's one was all about how we built a Retaliator, which was a pretty awesome read. Anyway, thank you very much to subscribers for allowing us to do all this. It's your contributions that sort of allow us to invest more money in community content than pretty much every other developer and probably most publishers. So thank you. And as part of that, we answer 10 questions from subscribers. And so here are the 10 for this week. So first question comes from Rex Maxim, who asks, with the ability of having multiplayer free flight now, would it also be possible to let players join a free flight game already in session? Yeah, actually, I mean, I'd have to check on this. I don't know why we particularly would block you joining a game in session. We definitely have work we're going to be doing on the lobby system, so you can actually go through and see the games that are played, and if there's open slots, you can join them and also see the sort of general skill rankings of the games. So that's a sort of slightly longer term project. I mean, it's definitely high priorities for an arena commander to sort of make the whole experience of matching up in multiplayer or finding other people much better than it is currently, because it's not good enough at all at the moment. We've sort of got a temporary matchmaker in right now. We're actually going to be replacing it with the one that will also drive the persistent universe and have a lot more features, but of course all those sort of things take a bit of time. Really there's no reason why you couldn't join a free flight game already in session. So I'll ask about that, but it may just be a matter of knowing what the game is, and that may just be a matter of a UI interface. So not necessarily say it's not happening now, it won't necessarily get fixed next week, but it's definitely, that will be something that will be addressed very shortly. Okay, next question comes from Sailor67. I'm planning on a hangar party for our entire organization and their guests once the social module is dropped. Will there be a code I can publish that will allow everyone access to my hangar for the weekend, then shut it down once the party is over? Also, with a lot of guests, will my hangar get instanced? So the first iteration of the hangar or social module is going, right now it has a friends implementation, which we're not particularly, or not friends, a sort of follower implementation, which we're not necessarily that enthusiastic, so we want a proper friends implementation. But right now you can basically give out invites to people that you know, and they can accept the invite to come to your hangar in the game interface, and then when they do, if they go into the elevator, say in their hangar, they'll have the ability to go to your hangar or floor, or however you want to think of it, as well as go up to the surface of ArcCorp. So that's, you basically send out invites for people to come into your hangar. I'm not quite sure how many people we're going to get in the hangar at the moment. In the FPS module, I think we're looking to try and get as many as 32 players into one instance in the Astro Arena stuff, and so we may do that in up to that level in the hangar. I'm not quite sure, because there's extra performance issues where you have all the ships as well as the characters, and so we've got a lot of optimization to do to make sure that we don't run out of memory and kill the frame rate and all the rest of the stuff. So I would say that the amount of people you can get in your hangar is going to be anywhere between 8 and 32 in the first iteration. We don't quite know yet. That's sort of we're going to get the FPS out. We're spending some extra time polishing the planet-side social module to have more functionality and features, and also have a bit of breathing room, because we don't want to release the planet-side social module right on top of the FPS module, because first of all, just in terms of code stability and changing streams in the background, you need some time. And second of all, everyone's going to be pretty busy playing the FPS. There's a whole bunch of new gameplay, new features. So I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be pretty focused on that, and so we sort of decided that it would be better to not have two modules sort of come out within 2 weeks or even 4 weeks of each other. So that's sort of our plan. So there'll be more functionality in the planet side and social module than we originally, because it's not like we're doing less work, we're just going to be able to include more when we do the drop. And part of that is figuring out some of our optimization and multiplayer stuff. That's an ongoing task also for Arena Commander. So we'll see, but basically you'll be able to invite a certain number of people to your hangar. Your hangar will be your hangar, so it's not going to be instant, so there won't be a fact of other people running around your hangar in another instance. It will be like you'll only be able to fit so many people in your hangar, and they can join and you can all hang out together, and so whatever that party list is going to depend on sort of the optimizations and how many people we can have in it. And we are working and doing things that will all make this stuff have a lot more players, all in the same instances longer term. So we're playing around with some ideas that we can do back in the cloud infrastructure that you couldn't necessarily do in the old sort of school, single kind of server setup. But that's longer term stuff. So ultimately, the goal is to be able to manage enough players so you can have a lot of players when you're running around an environment, or even you're in a big space battle. You can have plenty of ships in the space battle plus lots of people on site inside the ships, and that kind of setup would actually involve multiple servers running the various players, but because people are inside a ship, aren't necessarily in the same space as outside the ship, you can sort of apportion it that way, and so we can actually probably manage to get more effective player, basically a seemingly higher player count in one area. So you'll be like in the space area more limited on the number of ships, and then you'll be limited on the number of players inside a ship. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of what we're working towards. But of course, those are all steps along the way. Okay, next question comes from Abysmal Dragon, who asks, if we decide to use a ballistic weapon that is smaller than the size slot allotted for it, say a size 1 cannon in a slot that can hold up to a size 3 gun, could we then use the extra size to carry more ammo for that weapon? Not really. I think the concept on the sizing of weapons is that generally you will not be able to put a size 1 gun into a size 3 slot. The system allows you to have a minimum and a maximum size, but obviously, if a size 1's this big and a size 3 is that big, it just looks really silly putting a size 1 on something that big, and it doesn't make sense, and probably the sort of mounting attachments in real life wouldn't be built to accept a small weapon there. So in general, I would say that sizes, on a lot of weapon mounts would be maybe single size. So it's a size 3 mount, and you got to put size 3 items into it. Potentially in some cases you can have something that could take a size 2 or a size 3 or a size 3 or a size 4, that kind of thing. But in general, there won't be a really large slot. And also, the sizing doesn't ultimately create extra hard points for you to click. Essentially, you would have to have sort of an adapter item. So you could potentially have an item that would plug into the size 3 and maybe take 2 size 1 guns and an ammo box that could supply the 2 size 1 guns. We don't have that in the game right now, but the system would 100% allow you to do that kind of thing. And that's kind of the whole idea of the item port system. So hopefully that answered the question for you. Okay, next question comes from Gingen, or Jingen, however you'd want to say that. There hasn't been much information of late as on support of a Linux-furnished version of Star Citizen. Are there still plans to bring Star Citizen to the Linux platform? Well, we run all our servers on Linux, so we basically compile the game in Linux. The issue with actual Linux support is the graphics driver, so we don't have an OpenGL graphics DLL at the moment. Crytek was working on one, but they haven't managed to get it working to a state that everyone thinks the performance is acceptable, and so that's kind of what's really held up us being able to support Linux and also Mac. We're longer term we're looking at OpenGL next and having conversations with various parties about possibly doing support on OpenGL next, so such as AMD, obviously, who we've been doing stuff with on the graphics card side. So that's something we're pretty interested in. So I think in the future you could probably see us. We're definitely going to be doing DX12, and OpenGL next would be another thing we would do, and then obviously that would enable Linux support and probably Mac support, because I'm sure they're going to move to OpenGL next too. And then of course, if Crytek ever finish the base OpenGL implementation they have, then we would use that. Or if anyone else that's part of the sort of CryEngine ecosystem does something like that, we would do it. But that's really blocking us is sort of the underlying graphics drivers, because everything else actually runs in Linux, and most of the people here are big Linux fans, so we're quite happy to support it. It's just that we have an incredibly long list of tasks to do, and some basic tasks just to make sure the engine can work and scale for the size of the game we have that take higher priority than supporting one specific set of hardware. But it's definitely on our list, so hopefully that update helped you out. I'm not saying it's anywhere closer, but that's kind of where we're at on it. Okay, next question comes from Dark Ravens, who asks, currently anyone using gimbals or turrets suffers a weapon class loss of 1 for each weapon. How do you plan to have this affect larger ships, as they cannot maneuver like fighters and rely on turrets and gimbals more? Would all of my class 2 Constellation turrets be downgraded to class 1 weapons, as fixed guns on larger ships would mostly be useless? So, okay, there aren't any classes anymore, so let's get that started. We threw the whole idea of the classes out Actually, classes have not actually been existing in the implementation of code for a long time. They were just sort of a nomenclature we came up in the early sort of design days to say, okay, well, this would be a fixed gun, this would be a gimbal gun, this would be a turret, this would be a missile rack. But you know, now it's all about the sizes and the class, right? So whether you're you're a weapon, you're a turret that can have weapons plugged into it. You know, you're a missile pylon that can be plugged into a turret or into just a hard point that missiles can be attached to, or an ammo box or a fuel pod or any other thing. So that's the first thing to require. The design is the design. I mean, I've noticed a whole bunch of people getting all panicked about, oh, well, you know, it's this class and this size. Oh, my ship suddenly got gimped. And no, that's absolutely not the case. I mean, that's part of the problem of sort of our open development process is that obviously as things get refined and changed, then the nomenclature will change around and how you're doing this stuff. But ultimately, where we want to have the Aurora on the scale to the Hornet on the scale to the Constellation on the scale to the Bengal carrier, they're all going to live in their same relative spaces. So I wouldn't really get caught up on sizing or class naming on sort of weapons or turrets. Like for instance, I noticed a lot of people were sort of upset because they sort of felt like, well, I should, on the Constellation, the turret should be able to have dual class size 4 guns on it. And, I think if you want to take a look at like what size 2 guns look on an M50 right now, they look really silly, right? So basically what we're doing with the balancing is now that we're actually doing proper sizes, then what the sizes that go on the ships are going to be matched to the actual scale and size of the ship, and not some arbitrary numbers that we sort of came up when we were sort of putting it down on paper. But everyone's going to live in the sort of same space, right? So it's going to be like, you're not going to gimp the Hornet and upgrade the Aurora or something. The Aurora is going to not be nearly as good of a dogfighter as a Hornet, and the guns that are sitting on the turret on a Constellation are going to be bigger and more powerful than the guns sitting on the turret on the Hornet. And so it's all going to be still set up that way. So the Constellation, the bigger ships are very turret driven. It doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of turrets now because of this loss of one size. I mean, like I said, the sizings all change depending on what we do. So generally what will happen on the bigger ships is they will have turrets because like your question says, they don't move very fast, so you need to be able to move your guns around on the turret to keep track of your target. So likely the Constellation, probably it's not really something you want to have fixed guns, so we'll have the gimbaled weapons that are out on the sort of the outer engine parts, and then the big 2 turrets. They'll be plenty hard hitting. I mean, I would think that's we'll adjust sizes to make it all work. So just remember that there's some language at the very top of the ship page that says, this is all these numbers are not locked in stone, work in progress, we're rebalancing, etc., etc. But what you can be assured of is if I buy the ship that it's sort of positioned as the dogfighting ship, that's where it's going to exist when everything's ultimately balanced out. So I hope that kind of explains kind of where we're going on that. Next question comes from Chaplain, who asks, what is the heaviest level of armor that can be worn while piloting a ship or manning a crew station? And how long will it take to don the armor if the need arises? I hate to have to fight off a boarding party in my space pajamas. I think we're talking about piloting a ship or manning a station in general, like light armor. So for instance, if you're flying the Hornet, you'd probably need to have sort of flight suit or light armor. Potentially in a bigger ship like a Constellation or something, where there's a bigger sort of like chair to sit in to pilot. We may let you go up to medium armor. We haven't 100% made the chance, but the choice, not the chance. But the rule is essentially that it's light or below to be piloting in sort of the small fighters. And then if there's sort of a bigger kind of ship, potentially you can sit in medium armor. Heavy Titan, you probably can't be sitting down piloting ships in it. In terms of how long it takes to put the armor on, we haven't really sort of decided on the time of that. I can't imagine it's going to take too long. It certainly wouldn't take as long as it would actually take to strap on all the armor. So we'd probably just have a simple animation where you would sort of like kind of do this and all of a sudden the armor would be in. And it may take a little longer to put the heavier armor on than to say put light armor on. But we haven't come up with the times for those yet. Okay, next question comes from Anom, who asks, with the recent set of VR headsets being announced with various feature sets and capabilities and SDKs, Has CIG committed to one platform such as Oculus, or are you holding back work on the VR aspect until the right choice has become clearer? Okay, well, we're definitely not committing to one VR platform. That would be like us saying we're only can commit to one joystick or one controller solution, which we're not going to do. The whole point of Star Citizen is to basically embrace all the variety of peripherals that you can get with a PC. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're on a PC. It's awesome. You can do all these different things. So, we're going to be supporting Track R. We'll be supporting Oculus Rift. We'll probably be supporting the Valve Vive. And, if they ever bring Morpheus onto a PC, maybe we'll support that too, or some other versions of stuff, and Magic Leap or whatever. These are all things that we would want and like to support. There is work that's gone towards them, and there's also work that's in some future sort of builds that we have that we'll be able to share later on, but they're not in the current build that you guys have, because we have 3 or 4 builds all going at once. So like the team that's working on the FPS module is working with a certain version of the engine, and the team that's working on the social module is working on a slightly more advanced version, and the team that's working on the multi-crew ship combat is on an even more advanced version, as is Squadron 42. They're both on what we call main, which is the most up-to-date recent version, and then FPS and social are on slightly ones that we've sort of branched off at a certain time to make sure it stays stable. So some of the new VR stuff will come in down the road, so I'm thinking that potentially sort of some of the newer VR support will be with the multi-crew ship stuff later this year. Again, it's all about time and resources. So we're focusing on some very fundamental core stuff like the zone system that I've mentioned before, finishing off the large world, which is almost done now. We're just on sort of the 3D rendering camera relative stuff, and some base sort of engine sort of streaming stuff that we're working on, so we can bring in the massive amount of data that this game requires all the time with the really heavy assets, and also what we're going to do. And those are sort of foundation stones along with sort of the back end stuff that we need for pretty much all the experiences, and they obviously trump supporting individual as cool as it is hardware. So, but it's all part of the greater plan, and they will be supported, and we will not basically pick one side of party, because it's like I said, we want to support a lot of different joysticks, a lot of different HOTAS, a lot of different like mouse and keyboard, or gamepad, and you name it, 2 joysticks at once, rudder pedals. That's we won't say yep, we're only on Oculus, or we're only on Valve Vive, or whatever it would be. Okay, hopefully that answers that question for you. Next question comes from Ryudu, who asks, at the PAX East FPS showing, we got to see an energy-based grappling beam. Is there a plan to make a physical one with a grappling hook and wires? I don't know. Definitely there'll be an energy-based one. Potentially there could be a physical one with grappling hook and wires. It's not that difficult to do in the system. It's there's rope physics, and we can have it shoot out. The energy beam one's just sort of a little cleaner and easier to do. So that'll be the first implementation. So we'll definitely have that. And then the second one, who knows? I think there's some other things that are probably higher on the priority list for it. But longer term, that could be something pretty cool. Certainly visually it's cool. Okay, next question comes from Graxus, who asks, will the FPS damage mechanic be similar to the new ship damage mechanic? Can we expect to see clothing, skin, armor get grazed, burnt, bruised, then puncture wounds, gashes, then limp, non-functioning limbs? So the answer to that is yes, but it won't be in the FPS, because that branch actually doesn't have that for the body stuff. We're doing some actual shader work for special kind of material PBR shaders for characters right now, and part of the shader work will also be incorporating the ship damage shader work into the sort of character shader stuff. So, but the plan is 100% to do a lot of the similar stuff that we do on ships onto players. In the also in the FPS, we are going to have the your limb gets damaged or destroyed or ruined, so you'll limp, or you won't be able to use your right arm or left arm or that kind of thing. So that's all part of the plan of the sort of first-person aspect of the game. Won't all debut with the 1.0 of the FPS basically, but that will all be stuff that you can expect to be coming in to add this sort of extra level of like realism and immersion, and it's going to be pretty cool. And you'll be able to see like, look, I'm all shot up, and anyway, it'll be cool. All right, last question of the 10 comes from Dabs, who asks, will there eventually be items like keycards that will restrict where crew members can go on my ship? 100% yes. So we have a system that's getting finished out right now. It's what we call the Ghost system. I think I may have talked to it before, but it's the game object state machine, but I don't know what the game object state, and then I don't know what T comes up. Paul Randell came up with the nomenclature Ghost. So I don't know what T is, but it is a game object state machine that we use. And basically, it's a modularized set of logic that's built visually that is network aware. So if you do it on one of the clients, it will make sure it's replicated on all the other clients. And you can just have it attached to elements of your ship or any entity or item. So and the game and it's sort of a state machine that can sort of read variables and all the rest of the stuff, and trigger animations or other kinds of things. So the whole point of it is, like, for instance, to walk around your ship and in case of the retaliator that's actually in everyone's Hangar right now, the sort of rudimentary first version of it is there because when the doors are opening and everything, that's all driven by essentially a early version of Ghost. As you go in and out of the doors, it's basically got a little area triggered by the door, and it triggers the animation to open it, and it triggers the animation to close it. But that same logic can also say, oh, well, this door is shut down and there's a red light on the door, or this door's open, there's a green light on the door, or you need to use a keycard item into a keycard receptacle. And then when you use it in there, if it's the right key card, it unlocks 10 of the doors on the ship. So all that sort of functionality is going to be built in. It will be functional for Squadron 42 because we need some of that stuff for Squadron 42. It will be for the PU, and at some point it will be on, say, ships that people have in Arena Commander, although not right at the start. Okay, so there you go. That's the 10 questions. Thank you very much for your time and listening to me. Hopefully the questions were informative or answered some. I know occasionally people complain that it's the same question answered again and again. Not sure all these were exactly the same questions answered again and again, because some of them are pertinent to some new stuff that we talked about recently. But I definitely want to thank the subscribers for helping us to do this kind of extra community content. Obviously, to everyone that's backed the game, because I wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be making a game with this crazy ambition without all your support. So thank you so much. It's, I say it every time, but it's an awesome time making Star Citizen and Squadron 42. There's going to be some really fun, cool, exciting stuff. I think you're going to have one more show from me here before I actually go over to the UK, and I'm going to be over there for quite a few months because we're going to be shooting all the performance capture for Squadron 42 for later this year, and that's going to be fun. And I won't quite tell you about what we're doing there and who's in it, but I think people, anyway, you back this game for $40 or $30 or $45, you're getting deal of the century, even if you put $100+ into it. With the amount of times we're putting multiple AAA games all into one, it's and as I think I've said before, everything that we're raising right now just goes into making it bigger and better and more detailed. And anyway, I'm excited. It's gonna be really cool. I mean, we're at very early stages right now. But I think people can sort of see where the trajectory is going, and as things roll out, at the end of this year, there'll be a lot more, but it'll still be a lot more to go beyond that. But when it all comes together, it's going to be amazing, and I think along the way, it's still going to be a massive amount of fun to play and give feedback and do all the rest of the stuff. And I'm having a great time making it. I think the team's having a great time making it, and hoping you guys are having a great time participating in that and giving feedback and seeing how it goes and playing the various builds. So with that said, I will bid you adieu and talk to you next week. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.